Welcome back to the Damon Floyd Coaches Show here on Talk 101.3 The Buzz, where games are supplied to you by Wholesale Supply Group. Coaches Review brought to you each week by Lost Margaritas on 25th Street. So check those folks out there for a great pre-game meal, post-game meal, or just whenever you'd like to go there. Well, Coach, what a fantastic win last week, 17-14 on the road at Farragut. And I know you don't dwell on the long winning streaks and long losing streaks, but when the game starts, you know, you're focused on winning a game. But man, it had to feel good to come away with a win in a game that you had to win or season's over, and we did it.
Yeah, and it's nice to finally get a win against Farragut. You talk about not dwelling, but it's hard not to when you have so many losses against those guys. But man, a lot of respect for Farragut, and I've said it, you know, before, but they do things the right way. They're a hard-nosed, disciplined, just a tough football team, and you know they're just hard to beat because they're a team that really they don't beat themselves.
Right.
And as you can see, Friday it was just a battle to the end, and really proud of the way our guys played, but also the way that we just continued. We didn't worry about, you know, anything but that current play, and I felt like we really played for each other, and this wanted to be the team that kind of get over the hump. And they wanted at least one more week to practice together, and you know, just obviously at this point in the year, wins are hard to come by, so to still be playing at this point, we're really excited.
You're one of 16 teams, the Sweet 16 still playing in 6A football. And a thing that was very noticeable to Earl and I and Gwen, we were doing the broadcast, the lack of penalties. You know, we've seen a crew we've never seen, been assigned by the TSSAA from out of the area, and suddenly all the penalties. And I'm not saying they ignored calls. I'm just saying it was a well-played game, but they weren't looking for something to call a penalty on, and they let the game be decided on the field, which is what a good officiating crew should do in a game of this magnitude. And I thought they did. We played well. Farragut played well in regard to penalties, and I thought the crew called a real good game there.
I totally agree. I think if you go back and look at games, for some reason, you know, we get penalized. You know exactly the right ways. There's certain crews that we get penalized more.
Okay.
You know, I've been here for 15 years. I mean, let's be honest. It is what it is, and you can go back and look at the history. And, you know, some of it's very frustrating. A lot of people think Bradley have a home field advantage a lot of times.
Far from it.
Yeah. So really happy. We haven't averaged a whole lot of penalties this year except for certain games. And there's certain games that like spikes dramatically, and then there's a lot. Most of the games we played this year, you're looking at maybe 5 or less penalties. So
Maryville we didn't have hardly any at all.
I think we had 6 against Maryville.
Yeah, and that's manageable.
Yeah, you know, and at this point in the year, both teams should not have a lot of penalties. So that was obviously the case Friday, and they let us play, and I don't think there was many missed calls at all. I thought it was very well officiated. They did a good job communicating with us. So yeah, happy about that.
Well, it was one of those spine-tingling, nerve-wracking, finger-biting games from the broadcast point of view. I mean, because you're sitting here thinking, man, if they just complete one play, one pass, we're behind. We can lose this game.
Yeah.
And we didn't. Our defense bowed their neck, and we're going to talk about them in just a minute. But as a coach, do you guys get – I mean, Earl and I are just going crazy up here, and Gwen was too in silence. You know, it's nerve-wracking for us. Do you guys get caught up in that? I mean, I know you're focused on the game, but I don't see how you separate the nervousness from coaching. I guess you have to do that. But
you know, I mean, I get nervous, but it's really probably about right before warm up. So when we go warm up on the field right now at 6 o'clock. So about 5:30, it's like it just hits you. Yeah. For me, it's probably different for everybody. But once the game kicks off, like you don't have time to think about it. You're just trying to, you know, you're thinking, focused in on what's going on at that current moment. So I think in the playoffs, it's a really cool atmosphere. It's different than the regular season. Yes. And you do know that. Now, obviously, like I said, once the game kicks off, you don't know if it's playoffs or what it is, or it's a scrimmage, or you're just trying to win that next play and find out what's going on. So, but it's really fun to still be playing this time of year.
Well, I thought all 3 phases of our game, defense, offense, special teams, played solid for 4 quarters. And looking at defense, you got Isaiah, Nadavian, and CJ, the 3 down linemen. My goodness, I don't know how they could play much better. CJ had 4 solos, 5 assists, 3 TFLs, a sack, blocked a field goal. Isaiah had just about as good a game on his end, and Nadavian. They all were just in there fighting. And the linebackers, Kim and Sage and JD and Cam, they played a great game. We kept Matt White, the great receiver they have, under wraps except for one play. Almost entire game, he had 4 catches, or 3 receptions for 87 yards, but 65 of them was on one play. And that, you mentioned last week, he's the key to stopping them. And you were absolutely right, I thought.
I'll start with the D-line. So I told C.J. Hardy that may be the best game we've ever had from a defensive lineman since I've been here. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, look, that's some high praise because you're talking about Tucker Bolton, Parker Johnson, Kevin Gentry. I mean, we've had some really good defensive linemen throughout the years. I'm probably missing somebody, but C.J. really came to play.
Sure did.
Isaiah, pretty dang close to C.J. So Nadavian really played well. Josh Helson, who we call Gronk, he played well. He's the fourth guy. And we felt like going into the game we had an advantage up front. Obviously we did on our defensive front. And put a little bit different front end. And the biggest reason we did is because we thought those guys could not single block us. So we put them in a situation we had to be single blocked. And then we doubled number 20. We doubled number 20. Every snap except for two. Every snap except for two. One of them was the touchdown. And actually out of that formation, they had never ran that particular. Well, I think they ran it once out of all 10 games. So I actually went up to Coach Burkhart, who coaches our secondary right before. I said, I hope they do not run this out of trio, the formation, this boom route's what we call it. And as soon as they lined up in it and snapped it, I don't know if you can see the sideline view, but I went, oh no, they're running it. And we didn't have him double covered. And that's the one he scored on. And then we should have covered him the very last play of the game. He's supposed to be double covered. I was yelling to back up. And Cannon Hall, who played a lot of defense, and covered him most of the time. Yep. And then we had help over the top with Marcus. But anyway, he was supposed to double cover him. He thought I was talking about him backing up, so he didn't double cover him that play. And he caught the ball. Yeah. And I went up to him after the game because we had to do some post-game interviews. Their seniors were still on the field, and he was kind of close. So I wanted to make sure he knew that we had a lot of respect for him, and I do think that was the key of the game. We were able to double him, but we were able to do that because our front seven, really our front six, our D-line, our linebackers, were able to control the box and do pretty good on the run game.
Well, it's just a great game, I thought. Offensively, look again. Once Javon Burke, 33 carries, 224 yards and touchdown, 5 receptions, which makes him dangerous as a compliment to Cannon Hall on the other side. And I thought, give Matt Moody credit. I guess Matt gets credit for it. The call where Aiden McCleary on the quarterback sneak went in almost untouched for our go-ahead touchdown there. Everybody else, here goes the jet sweep with Javon, and I think Jackson Wilson in the backfield with the time, and they go this way, and everybody's going that way chasing him, except Aiden just walks up there, and it was just a beautiful thing to see there,
Well, I think in the playoffs, our goal has always been to try to keep the quarterback healthy. But in the playoffs, the quarterback's got to run. Now, they got to be timely runs. But, I think Coach Moody deserves a lot of credit. Anybody that's watched us over the past couple years, he's adapted to the talent that we have and what makes us strong. It's funny because usually I don't really hear the stands. Yeah. For some reason, Friday, I'm hearing people in the stands telling us what we need to be calling. And it's like, do you not realize what got us to this point? We got all these gurus. And I probably shouldn't say anything, but it's pretty frustrating because we have a game plan. Yeah. Javon has rushed for 1,700 yards, and they're still out. But anyway, Matt Moody deserves a lot of credit. Our kids deserve a lot of credit because that was the game plan. The game plan will be in the playoffs to control the clock by running the football, taking a shot if we can, and playing good defense. It may not always work out that way, but that will be the game plan, and Coach Moody is doing a good job of calling those plays. So,
ignore the noise.
Well, I do most of the time. It was just funny that I hear some of that stuff. It's like, you can't win. Yeah. You can't win. So.
Hey, I know you can't. Special teams, it wasn't perfect, but we did limit them on kickoff returns to a manageable returns. They didn't get past the 30-something, I don't believe, on any kickoff return. Didn't kick much, though, because it was low scoring. We had a blocked field goal on special teams. We kicked a field goal on special teams. A lot of good things happened there. And do you think that my question to them on one play they didn't run late in the game is 4th and 5 on our 15-yard line. They've got a boomer, the kicker. They're down by 3, but they go for it on 4th and 5. Do you think the fact that we had blocked a field goal earlier played into their mindset of, hey, should we just try to kick a field goal? Yeah. Should we go for it? Went for it and didn't get it. Game over,
all coaches obviously second-guess themselves after the game's over. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? We never really thought they were going to snap it. We thought, well, they're just trying to draw it off sides. They'll call timeout. They'll kick it. And then they end up snapping when the play clock, they did a couple of motions and shifts. Yeah. We never jumped. Then they do end up snapping it. I'm not sure why they didn't kick it. Maybe it was a little bit out of his range, but I do think in the warm-ups, I always look at the other kicker and see how he's kicking, and thought he had the leg. Yeah. But we did block one earlier, so maybe that played into them. Maybe they felt like they had a protection problem with that instance. And Not sure why they didn't, but I'm fortunate that we came out 3 points ahead. Now special teams is playing better.
Yeah.
But we still have ways to go. I'm very frustrated. I've talked to Cannon about it. Why we're not catching the punt, because we're starting drives inside our own 5, and that's just a long way to go. That's not winning the field position battle like we talked about. So we got to catch those punts, even if it's a fair catch. And then kickoff coverage was better. I've talked to Grant. We're not always executing the kick. So we're going to change that up a little bit this week. But we need to have a chance this Friday. We have to win the special teams battle. It can't be even, and we can't lose. We have to win field position.
Well, it's going to be a challenge at Maryville, of course, and we'll be right back to take a look at that playoff game in the second round of the Sweet 16, we call that, led by this man right here, who's in his 11th consecutive year in the playoffs in 6A. We'll get our thoughts on this game when we return here on Los Margaritas on 25th Street.
One thing to love about the Tennessee Valley is Bradley Central Show Choir, Vocal Motion. The other thing to love is the local Geico office on Lee Highway.
You could save a lot. Oh, you could save a lot. Oh, you could save a lot. But how do you know?
Unless you call 894-2600. Got a car? Got a boat? Got a home?
Get a quote.
Welcome back to Damon Floyd Coach Show here on Talk 101.3 The Bus, brought to you by Los Margaritas on 25th Street. And last week, I'm going to read the quote I had last week. There's nothing more that needs to be said about our game with Farragut because it's now win or go home. We just substitute the word Farragut for the word Maryville. Yeah. And we've talked about Maryville till we're tired of talking about them through the years. Everybody knows what kind of program they are, but once again, it's do or die time to get that final 8 down to 6A. Down to 8 if you win Friday.
As much respect as we have for Farragut, we have more for Maryville. We know it's going to be a tall task, and they're really, really good. You know, it starts with their coaching staff, or their players, I should say. They have really good players, but their coaching staff, they're really well coached. They're going to execute. And, you know, we talked about a lot that their kids also understand, hey, it's 3rd and 3, so they call a play that may get 4 or 5 yards. Now, if they break it for a touchdown, that's great. But they're so good at understanding, hey, we need 3 yards here, and they get those 4 or 5. And they're just really intelligent football team. You know, a lot of respect. I've had a lot of people ask me, say things like, well, y'all played them good in the first half. Yeah, we did, and a lot of things went our way. But we've got to play our best game that we've played, and it's got to be for 4 quarters, and we've got to win all the little details that go along that are keys to a football game.
Well, I'm sure they were thinking the same thing there too. Now we played in 4 weeks ago, maybe five weeks ago, and obviously not a whole lot's going to change between then for us or them either one. And I mean, it's not an advantage either way, but you know what they're going to try to do. They know what we're going to try to do. It's just a matter of As we've said many a time, who can execute the play that's called offensively or defensively, and
Yeah.
they're going to win the game.
Yeah, and you know, when you break them down, and in this day and age of football, everybody knows what everybody's doing. Now, obviously, there is little wrinkles that people take advantage of, depending on what you're lined up in, those kind of things. But we have to make sure we line up correctly and do our job. And really, the game boils down to blocking and tackling. You know, if we're on the offense side of the ball, we can't let them get off blocks. We have to sustain blocks, and we have to pick up first downs. If we're on defense, we got to get off blocks, and we got to find a way to get them on the ground. The last time we played them, we were in really good position. They break a tackle, and they're in the open field, and they score.
Yeah.
You know, in the last quarter, they scored 14 like that.
Yeah.
And it really blew the game open. You know, with, I think, 8 minutes left, it's 21-13. We got the ball with a chance to drive and score. So that's what they've always done. They handle momentum swings up or down, good or bad, better than any team we've ever played. And then it seems like when they get an advantage, it snowballs really quickly. Mm-hmm. And we have to be able to handle those emotions, and we've talked about it as a team. But they're going to come out and execute really well, and we have to match that execution on both sides of the ball, or all three phases really. So we know it's a tall task, but the fortunate thing is we got a chance, and that's all we can ask for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of teams like to be in your shoes right now playing because their season's over. Last week and throughout the year, you've talked about the keys to winning most every game is protect the ball, don't turn it over, avoid the unnecessary penalties that just seem to bite us. We had a great game of that last week, didn't bother us at all. I'm sure that's probably the philosophy this week. Is that it should be every week, I guess. But Maryville's going to be Maryville. Playing them at their place is not easy. I think they've lost 3 home games in the last 20 years. So, and they've got, you know, we've got a 6-12-2 record, something like that against them. Decent record, you know, respectable record, unlike it was with Farragut. But somebody's got to break that region winning streak of theirs, and the Bears should do it. You know, that's what we need to do.
Yeah. You eventually you hope somebody does break it.
Yeah,
and
they will. So why not?
They will eventually. It's just hadn't happened in the last 17 years. But like we say every week, and you can ask our team at the end of every practice, I'll ask them what's the key to the game, and I'll call on different people to answer those questions. It's protect the football, no silly penalties, do your job and trust your teammates to do their job, relentless effort, and then win on special teams. And our kids, they should know those keys to the game. We can do all 5 of those keys to the game really well, and it's still going to be a close ball game. But we have to do those 5 to have a chance to win.
Well, let's talk about a fella I had on here earlier, Mason Kirkendall, who's been your manager there, and he does a little bit of everything on the sidelines for you. He's a fired up, peppery kind of guy there. And
oh, he's awesome. You know, Jake Tipton's brother, and we're happy to have him. He joined us 2 years ago, Jake's senior year last year. But he is, we call him the H2O specialist.
Okay.
You know, in the day of COVID now, he doesn't really get the water ready because all the protocols have changed. But he's probably the only I hate to say water boy, but he's the only manager we've had to ever get a penalty.
Yeah, he talked about that.
And I gave him a hard time about that, but, you know, he loves being a Bear and part of the program, and our team is really accepting him. They love him being a part of it. I hate it for him because he couldn't be here on senior night.
Yeah.
But he is a huge part of our team, and we love having him on it.
Well, I tell you, it was fun interviewing him, and, of course, Isaiah Arnold had a great game there, and let's just keep up the momentum going, play the defense. Play a 4-quarter game. You know, I think that's going to be the key to us winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our kids are excited to go up there and play. It's always a good environment to play at Maryville. And, you know, if you're ever going to make a run in the playoffs, you're going to see Maryville at some point. So here we go, round 2.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's Coaches Show with Damon Floyd here. Join Earl, Gwen, and me live in the press box Friday night, 5:30. Remember, it's an early kickoff, 7 o'clock around the state for all the playoff games. On Talk 101.3 The Buzz, we'll have our award-winning football panel, a player interview, and our coaches interview, of course. With Isaiah Arnold, our player interview this week. Had a heck of a game last Friday night. I'd like to once again thank Los Margaritas on 25th Street for the continued support of Bear football. For Coach Damon Floyd, this is Gary Ownbey saying so long for now. Until next time, God bless and go Bears.